We are on June 8th. I know for a fact that on June 22nd, we have a different person, a different witness. I'm not saying that Dr. L is going to be on the stand until June 22nd. I'm not saying that at all. I know he's going to be on the stand for a bit more. But I don't know when he gets off. But I do know that he's definitely won't be there past June 22nd because I see someone else on the stand then. I just can't tell for the rest of it. But that's fine because he's giving us details. If we could just pay attention. Just stop playing around in chat and pay attention. It is on 1.25 speed, so here we go.
It's a difficult handwriting to read there.
You're unable to make it out?
Yes.
All right. Anything further with respect to this form?
No.
I am closer this morning, though. Dr.
Your Honor,
Lachmano?
1B and 9B from our collection. Thank you.
Lashmano?
Doctor, if you could step down, and let me invite your attention to, again, this is Board 1B and Form 15. And I want to discuss now any samples that were preserved by Dr. Golden at autopsy for toxicological analysis, from what you said before, for drug alcohol screening purposes. Does this Form 15 show what, if anything, was preserved by Dr. Golden from the Nicole Brown Simpson autopsy for that purpose?
He saved heart blood and urine, as is indicated on the right side on the toxicology specimens collected.
Let me outline that box area that you were pointing to on Form 15. Does he also indicate the type of analysis that he wishes to have performed?
He requested a H screen, which is a screen which we use for homicide cases.
And you've indicated an area that I'm now circling also in red on the Form 15, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Doctor, let me invite your attention, if I could please, to this other board that is 9B. And page 1 of this board has some kind of printed document dated 6/21/94. Are you familiar with this document, Doctor?
Yes.
What is this?
It's a toxicology report.
And in general, how is this type of document produced in the course of the coroner's office operation with respect to a sample submitted such as Dr. Golden has indicated on the Form 15?
The specimen submitted at autopsy is logged in by the toxicology section. The canary copy, if you remember I said it's a 4-layered document, the 15. The canary copy goes to the toxicology laboratory. Based on the request by the doctor, the toxicology laboratory will retrieve the specimen and run the specimen for the drugs requested. H screen normally would refer to the drugs listed in this report: alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, narcotics, and PCP. So these drugs were tested for based on the request of Dr. Golden on June 14th.
And is this report generated following any such testing by employees of the coroner's office?
Yes.
Is it generated at or about the time of the events which are recorded on the document as having been the test results?
Yes.
Are you familiar, there's a column, a number of columns. Let's start in the far left-hand side of this first page, and it describes a column for tissue, and underneath there's appear to be a series of entries all with the same word, blood. What does this reflect?
That would reflect the specimen which was analyzed for that particular test.
And this, in this case, this would be blood taken from the body of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
The next column then is for what?
That is the analysis requested, which would be the drugs which are included in that H screen.
And the next column?
And that would indicate the drugs which are analyzed, which would basically be the drugs which were requested.
What is ethanol, which appears to be the first word under that column?
It's alcohol.
Is that drinking alcohol?
Well, yes, it's alcohol which is present in the wine and other liquors people drink.
And if we move to the next column, there's something level found. In general terms, what is that column to reflect?
It is to reflect two things. One, the amount, if the drug is present, and if it's present, how much is present.
There appear to be, after the first entry, two letters, ND. N as in Nancy, D as in dog, that is repeated for a total of 5 entries. Does ND have some meaning to you?
Yes, it means not detected, and there is a legend in the key in the bottom portion of this report. It says ND means not detected.
The next column, and I'll get back to the specific number that's found as the first entry, but let me move to the next column under assigned toxicologist, and for those 5 ND entries, the same initial and last name appears, L. Mahaney. Is this the same Mr. Mahaney that I believe you described earlier, was a criminalist who was asked to take some blood stain samples from the, I think you said, thigh area of Nicole Brown Simpson at the coroner's office on June 13th, 1994?
Yes,
And how long has Mr. Mahaney been working for the coroner's office?
over 15 years,
How long has he been a toxicologist?
same amount of time.
And then the last column deals with date analyzed, and as to Mr. Mahaney's entries, it appears that the date is the same, June 21st. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And is that date intended to reflect when the tests have been completed and reviewed by the toxicologist assigned?
Yes.
Let me move back then to the top entry for the ethanol and start with the assigned toxicologist J. Park, P-A-R-K, who is, I don't know if that's a Mr. or Ms. Park.
He's another toxicologist in our office who's been there for many years.
And the date analyzed would reflect the date that Mr. Park is to have analyzed the blood sample submitted for the presence of alcohol, in this case finding drinking alcohol, ethanol.
Yes.
Now, doctor, in the level found area, there appears to be some entry. Does that entry have any meaning to you?
Yes, that would signify that alcohol was present and the amount was 0.02 gram %.
Perhaps if you'd like to retake the stand. As part of your training as a forensic pathologist, do you learn about the concept of alcohol being drunk, absorbed by the body, and reflected on testing in blood samples taken from the body?
Yes.
Briefly, can you describe what your training and experience is in that regard?
Basically, we do the alcohol testing routinely in all our traffic accident fatalities, which is a requirement by the law in the state of California. And the legal limit for being under the influence is 0.08 grams %. And we also, the other exposure to alcohol-related deaths is people who have the syndrome of alcoholism, who are found dead and without in medical attendance. We do autopsies on them, and we would determine what the fatal level of alcohol was, if alcohol played a role in their death. The other situation would be somebody who goes for a party and they drink a lot, and they're a young person who has not taken much alcohol in the past and consumes a lot and then dies from it. In that case, the alcohol
Kelly, I'm so sorry.
is also analyzed. So
Kelly,
our role in the alcohol analysis and interpretation
How are
is
you?
mainly in quantitative interpretation. I'm not an expert on the...
that must have been extremely difficult, and that must have hit you right in the gut out of nowhere. None of us knew he was going to say those words. None of us. And I'm not going to pretend it's my fault. You shouldn't either. None of us knew he was going to say that. You didn't know what was going to happen. Not your fault. It's not your fault. Kelly.
effects of alcohol per se.
Are you, however, trained to evaluate, number one, what happens within the body to the alcohol that is imbibed? That is, you drink a drink of alcohol, let's say wine, for example. What happens in the body to that alcohol that's in the wine?
It's absorbed from the stomach itself, some portions of it and portions of it in the intestine, and then it's taken to the liver and metabolized by some enzymes in the liver. And some of the alcohol also is excreted in the urine. And that is briefly the metabolism of alcohol.
Doctor, is the alcohol that is going to be absorbed by the system primarily absorbed in the intestinal area?
Yes.
And the alcohol initially, however, ends up in the stomach if it's drunk in the appropriate manner. Is that correct?
Yes.
How quickly does alcohol move from the stomach into the intestines?
Being a liquid, if it's not, it'll be within a very short time, within 20 to 30 minutes, it should be going to the intestine. But also, as I said earlier, a portion of it can be absorbed in the stomach.
Absorbed directly into the system through the stomach?
Yes.
Now, doctor, are you also, withdraw the question, in order to detect a blood level of alcohol, must the alcohol have been absorbed either in the stomach or in the intestines?
Yes.
And is there a time frame, in general terms, for alcohol to be absorbed from the time a drink is drunk until the time it is absorbed in the intestines as well as the stomach?
Usually you'll see a blood level within an hour after drinking.
Doctor, are you also familiar in general terms with the relative concentration of alcohol as it is contained in various kinds of drinks?
A rough idea, because you have variation in different wines, the concentration of alcohol. You have variation in the different hard liquors, the concentration of alcohol. So you need to know the specific type of alcohol ingested to know the exact concentration. For example, port wines will have 20% alcohol in it. Some regular house wines will have 10% alcohol in it. Your hard liquors like whiskey will have 40%, which is 80 proof. So it varies, so you need to know what type of alcohol was consumed.
Doctor, does the level that is detected in Nicole Brown Simpson, 0.02%, have meaning to you if you assume the following circumstances? That Nicole Brown Simpson visited the Mezzaluna restaurant at approximately 10 minutes to 7 on the evening of June 12, 1994. That she left that restaurant sometime between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m., with some testimony saying that she left about 8:45-ish. That in the course of being at the restaurant, a bill was opened by the server, and from the time the bill was opened until the time the bill was closed, meaning that no additional food or beverage had been ordered, an hour and 14 minutes passed within this time frame of 10 to 7 arrival and the time frame then of leaving 8:30 to 9, 8:45-ish. And that assume further that Nicole Brown Simpson during that time had up to 2 glasses of a wine from a bottle provided by the restaurant of a typical California wine. And that Nicole Brown Simpson died at approximately 10:15 p.m. on June 12, 1994. Given those circumstances, does a level of 0.02% have any significance to you in saying whether or not that is consistent with that set of circumstances?
Sustained on the basis of foundation.
Doctor, approximately what percentage of alcohol is absorbed from a single glass of house wine? You may answer, Doctor.
A significant percentage will be absorbed from the stomach and the intestine. And I'm not an alcohol metabolism expert, and I'm only going to give you some general knowledge which I have in the field. So a glass of wine can cause a level of anywhere from 0.02 to 0.03, depending on the concentration of the alcohol in the wine and other parameters.
Keep your voice up, please.
And other parameters associated with it, depending on the concentration of the alcohol in the wine.
All right. So,
Sustained. Foundation.
Doctor, have you in fact, you don't practice it as a regular part of your practice as a forensic pathologist to analyze the rate of absorption of alcohol from drinks in the human body, is that correct?
That's correct.
But do you in fact have experience and training as part of your training to be a forensic pathologist in your practice in knowing about that?
As I told you, I have general idea about the knowledge about the alcohol metabolism, and my experience and expertise is mostly on levels which cause death. And I already told you that I'm not an expert on explaining the effects of alcohol in the body.
And I'm not going to ask you about the effects of alcohol, but in understanding levels of alcohol, do you have training as to the rate at which the blood alcohol will show itself from drinks that are imbibed by the decedent?
In a very general manner, as I told you, a glass of wine can cause a level of 0.02 to 0.03 if the alcohol level in the wine is about 10%. And the metabolism of alcohol is, if in an average person, will be 0.015% per hour if the person has not continued to drink. And based on that, you can make some calculations, but I would not want to offer an opinion on that because I'm not an expert in that field.
I understand, Doctor, but just talking in the general terms, of a .02 to a .03 blood alcohol level associated with a single glass of 10% alcohol house wine. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And if somebody had 2 glasses of that, first of all, does the weight of the individual have some bearing on what the blood level will be of the alcohol?
The weight would have, the amount of alcohol you take would have a bearing, the concentration of the alcohol would have a bearing, what food was ingested with the alcohol would have a bearing, because, so a lot of factors are there, and also what are the effects you have on the emptying of the stomach would have a bearing. So there are many factors which have to be taken into considerations before you offer an opinion on this kind of question.
And I'm asking you in general terms. I'm not going to ask you an opinion specifically. In general terms, a glass of wine as...
Objection. I don't even know why. Hey, Josh. I showed a video of you today on my other stream. I showed a whole video of you. And really, you live in a very nice neighborhood. We saw your house. We saw, your child. We saw the way you treated those police officers. Sir, you need to calm down when you talk to police officers. I dedicated over half of my stream to you today, didn't I, Bobby? Okay, that's exaggerating, but that's okay. He doesn't know he wasn't there. I had a male Karen in Utah. And I showed it, and I told everybody it was you, because you live in Utah, so it could have been you. They know it wasn't you.
described can result in a blood alcohol
What's a
level of
fancy
0.02
house?
to 0.03. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And how long does it take in order to get that blood alcohol level, assuming the person doesn't take more than the 1 drink?
Oh, we're talking about rate of absorption.
Yes, Your Honor.
Within an hour.
All right, we've asked that question 3 times now.
Now, doctor, you mentioned something about metabolism. What do you mean by that?
That is the rate at which the alcohol is digested by the body, and that I gave as an average rate of 0.015 grams per cent per hour.
So when you say metabolized, would that translate into a lowering of the blood alcohol level by that amount, assuming the person doesn't drink any more than the 1 drink?
That is correct.
And is a 0.02 percent level, as found in the alcohol specimen submitted on behalf of Nicole Brown Simpson, a level which can be used by you with your experience to assess how many drinks Nicole Brown Simpson had from the time of approximately 7 o'clock until the time of her death? You may answer the question.
I don't have the expertise to go into those details.
There are other people who do.
Yes, there are people who specialize in alcohol metabolism who can give a better opinion on this aspect of the analysis than me.
And would the same apply as to the burn-off rate as to the specific individual, that would be a matter that can be determined with an appropriate expert who focuses on that area of science?
Yes. Yes.
Doctor, in your opinion, one final area, let me withdraw that. We're going to talk about stomach contents and time of death later on, is that correct?
Yes.
And is one of the aspects, I understood you to say that alcohol may have an impact on stomach emptying.
Yes.
Is that something that is within your area of expertise?
Yes.
Is that something on which you have reviewed literature in forensic pathology texts?
Yes.
Is that material that you have read material which you have relied upon in forming a part of the basis for any opinion you may hold with respect to the impact of any alcohol, on the stomach emptying process?
Yes.
In general, doctor, what level of alcohol is required to have any significant impact on the rate of stomach emptying?
The information I've read is 30% alcohol can have an impact on delaying emptying of the gastric contents.
And when you say 30%, are we talking in the same types of percentage terms as 0.02 that's up there, or what?
You're talking about 30% alcohol content in the liquor consumed.
Is there anything further with respect to this first page of the toxicological analysis, doctor?
And nothing else.
Let me flip the page. Now, what is this second document? It appears to be dated August 31, 1994.
That is the extension of the toxicology screen I had requested in June, end of June, on the blood of Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson.
And first of all, why did you request these additional tests?
Just to complete the toxicology screen, because it was a head screen, I just want to make sure there were no other drugs present in the blood, like basic drugs, phenothiazines.
What are phenothiazines?
Phenothiazines are tranquilizers like chlorpromazine and tranquilizer drugs.
Chlorpromazine?
Yes, that's one.
Doctor, you have to keep your
Chlorpromazine.
In the tissue column, there appear to be 2 blood entries, but also a urine entry. Do you see that?
Yes,
Was this part of what you requested?
yes,
And in the level found, the letters QNS appear. Is that correct?
yes.
What do they stand for?
Quantity not sufficient for doing the analysis.
And what does that mean? Quantity of urine is insufficient to do the analysis?
Yes.
Again, we see an assigned toxicologist for each of the tests that are requested. We've already covered Mr. Mahaney, who are Mr. Muto, and I'm not sure if that's Mr. or Ms. Budd, B-U-D-D.
Mr. Budd is another senior toxicologist in our department who has been there over 15 years. Mr. Muto is the chief of toxicology in our department.
And does ND indicate the same thing it did before, that none was detected as to the drugs that were being analyzed?
Yes,
Or the drugs for which the analysis was being done?
yes,
Anything else about this particular document, Doctor?
none.
Doctor, I want to move our 1B board over and flip to the Form 16. Let me just get a marker if I could, please. On this particular form, Doctor, let me start actually in the upper right-hand corner where there is appears to be the pre-printed word brain and the letters WT and then some entries underneath that. In general terms, Doctor, what is that area of this form to encompass?
It records the weight of the organ, and also if there's any pathology, they enter the pathology there.
Doctor, as you recall from yesterday, you talked quite a bit
Bobby,
about
you're
brain
right.
contusion
The lawyer
seen in
needs to
photograph
keep his voice
B33.
up.
Would you expect, if Dr. Golden had seen that brain contusion, that there should be an entry somewhere around this upper right corner of Form 16 to reflect that?
Yes,
Is the failure to have entered some kind of indication of that brain contusion a mistake?
not necessarily, because some of my doctors don't enter it there, but they enter it in the diagram containing the brain. But in this case, he had indicated no injuries on the brain diagram also, so I would say it's a mistake.
Would your answers be the same as to the significance of this mistake to the questions that were asked about the significance of him writing no injuries on the Form 29 regarding the brain?
Yes,
Doctor, I want to drop down to the mid portion of Form 16, and there appears to be the word stomach, and then some entries underneath that, and there also appears to be some writing to the right of it.
yes.
Starting with stomach, what is that particular entry on the form, a pre-printed entry on the form, intended to encompass?
It reflects the contents of the stomach, and he has described the contents.
Is that, in fact, what you expect from one of your forensic pathologists conducting an autopsy in a case such as Nicole Brown Simpson, that the contents of the stomach will be examined and that there will be a description of the contents provided in this area of Form 16?
Yes.
What did Dr. Golden write with respect to the contents of the stomach?
He wrote the contents was 500 cc of stomach contents with pasta, and he has mentioned rigatoni, and he's also mentioned spinach as some of the contents of the stomach.
And is there an entry between the pasta/rig and the spinach that you've indicated?
It says black, I can't read the letter there.
Olives, perhaps?
Could be olives, yeah.
What's underneath what you identified as the word spinach?
Leaves,
And is there a second word after the word leaves?
can't, it says CL, you can't read that properly.
Can't make that out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Doctor, is this what you expect to see with respect to a description of any stomach contents observed by Dr. Golden in the course of the autopsy?
Yes.
Retake the stand for a second. Let me just outline that in blue on the Form 16, and I'll outline the area of the brain, Your Honor, and for that I'll write B33 to reflect the photograph to which it may refer. Doctor, does your office, in its medical examiner's manual, have a protocol to be followed regarding stomach contents?
To describe the contents is important, to describe it in volume.
And referring to page 63 of the same manual that we talked about, I think earlier today on section, I'm sorry, not this manual, we talked about it yesterday on homicides. Page 63 under gastrointestinal system, does it say the following? The esophagus and its mucosa should be described. The contents of the stomach should be noted and the mucosa described. The duodenum, small bowel, appendix, colon, and rectum should be described. The bowel should be open in all homicide cases, and in other cases where appropriate, the pancreas should be described. Is that what the manual indicates?
Yes.
And is that what you expect?
Yes.
Now, doctor, first of all, how is the stomach contents examined in the course of an autopsy?
When you open the stomach, you look at the contents and describe what the contents are, and you also, if you're going to save them, you collect them in the appropriate containers, which I showed earlier on Tuesday.
How does one examine the stomach contents? Is it while it's in the stomach or after it's been removed from the stomach?
Usually, you can examine a portion of it in the stomach, but also you take it out and then examine it.
I believe you testified on Tuesday when we were looking at the tray of instruments that an instrument is provided for the measurement of the contents of the stomach. Is that correct?
Yes.
What is that instrument?
The ladle.
And how is the ladle used to measure the contents?
Each ladle is about 6-ounce ladle, so that's one way you could measure it.
A 6-ounce ladle translates, I think you said 500 cc's. What are cc's?
It's cubic centimeters.
That's
And how
pretty
can you
gross.
relate 500 cc's
It's
to a
gross.
6-ounce ladle?
An ounce is about 30 cc, so 6 ounces is about 180 cc, so about 3 ladles worth.
Of stomach contents?
Yes.
All right, doctor. Now, on June 13th, when you examined, or at least saw the body of Nicole Brown Simpson, was any police officer from the Los Angeles Police Department present with you?
On June 13th?
June 13th?
No.
Did you receive any information on June 13th as to what, if anything, Nicole Brown Simpson had eaten at Mezzaluna Restaurant on June 12th, 1994, between the hours of 10 to 7 at night and roughly 8:30 to 9 at night?
No.
On June 14th, did you see Dr. Golden performing any aspect of the autopsy of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
What did you see?
I went down to see whether he was doing the autopsy, but actually he was almost completed with the autopsy when I saw him.
Now, doctor, when you went down, I think you indicated with these forms that Detectives Lang and Van Adder were listed on the form as witnesses to the autopsy. Do you know those two gentlemen?
Yes, they are detectives who investigated this crime.
Did you see either of those two gentlemen in the area of where the Brown-Simpson autopsy was being conducted?
Yes.
Did you talk with either of those two officers?
Not in the autopsy room that day. I don't recall talking to them in the autopsy room.
Did you receive any information on the 14th of June from any source whatsoever as to what, if anything, Nicole Brown Simpson had eaten at the Mezzaluna Restaurant in the time frame I gave in the earlier question?
No.
Now, doctor, on the 14th of June, did you have a conversation with Dr. Golden regarding the stomach contents of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes, I did.
How did that come about?
When I went down, as I told you, he was almost completing the autopsy, and I asked him, did he save the stomach contents? And he said, no.
Why did you ask him that?
Well, I just asked him because I asked him whether he had saved it because it's a useful item to save if you think there's a medical value to it. But in this case, I thought we should save it because of the nature of the cases we were dealing with, so that it will be available for anybody else who wants to examine it. Because the policy in our office is only to examine the contents and describe it and describe the volume, not to save stomach contents unless it's needed for toxicological purposes.
Let's break down your response and do some follow-up questioning, doctor. First of all, in what circumstance or circumstances do you believe that the stomach contents itself can have value to you as a forensic pathologist?
For us, the value would be to save it would be for cases where there's a drug overdose, where you suspect suicide, wherein you will have a drug level of a drug in the blood, and you want to see how much of medication is left in the stomach, which will support your opinion as to that it was a suicide, because you have so many tablets of the medication left in the stomach, and you'll also have a high level in the blood. The other reason we save stomach contents in drug overdoses is we sometimes, the person might have ingested a drug, and you may identify the tablets, and your routine screen may not pick up the drug, so then you can analyze the medication in the stomach and then go backwards to check the same substance in the blood. So we principally save stomach contents in cases of drug overdose, wherein we can correlate for the purposes of manner of death, as I indicated, and also sometimes assist us in the process of determining the cause of death, wherein you do not find the drug in the routine drug screen.
Doctor, would another circumstance, in your opinion, dictate saving the stomach contents if food poisoning were a suspected source for the person's death?
That would be another reason why we would save it in case you have a person who has had
Speaking of stomach contents, Tona, how's your hubby doing? You guys settled in? Is he comfortable? Slightly pain-free, maybe? How are you doing? Are you stressed? Make sure you eat yourself. Don't eat yourself. Make sure you eat food.
either bacterial food poisoning or poisoning from any other drugs, as I mentioned.
Doctor, when you were asking Dr. Golden whether he saved the stomach contents, did you entertain in your own mind that Nicole Brown Simpson may have died from a drug overdose?
No.
Did you entertain in your mind that Nicole Brown Simpson may have died from food poisoning from a restaurant she visited on June 12, 1994?
No.
Or from eating food of any type from any source whatsoever?
No.
Why did you raise the subject
What
then?
about falling out of an airplane?
Because I felt that, given the nature of the case,
Oh,
it
never
would be
mind.
good to save the stomach contents so that if anybody else has questions as to our findings, we'll have it available for their evaluation.
What do you mean by the nature of the case?
Because by the 14th of June, I had been informed of the high-profile nature of these cases.
Doctor, have you ever heard the term defensive medicine?
Yes.
As to the practice of forensic pathology, what does defensive medicine mean, if anything?
To save sometimes specimens, even if it's not indicated medically, so that it's available if any other person wants to look at a particular specimen. In this particular case, that's what it will apply to.
Is it something akin to covering your backside?
Well, you could put it in that way if you want to put it.
Well, Doctor, it's not a matter of how I want to put it. Is that what your thought process was on June 14th?
Yes.
Now, Doctor, as a result of that thought process, let me withdraw the question for just a moment, if I might. Doctor, does judgment have any role in the practice of forensic pathology?
Yes.
What role does judgment have?
Because judgment is a term judgment comes with years of experience, and you know that in certain cases you may need to do a little more than what is necessary in other cases. And that's what you would refer to as judgment.
Doctor, would it be accurate to say that the safest way one could cover your backside in the practice of forensic pathology is to save absolutely everything that you come in contact with in the course of the autopsy?
Yes.
Is that very practical?
No.
Now, Doctor, in fact, have you reviewed literature in recognized forensic pathology texts dealing with what is a suggested ideal protocol for the handling of stomach contents?
Yes.
And have you considered and relied upon that in forming any opinion as to whether the practice at the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office should be to save the stomach contents in every criminal homicide case?
I've reviewed the literature, and based on our own experience, we only save it when it's needed.
Have you also relied in part on what you have read as a suggested ideal protocol?
Yes.
Is one of the materials you have read in this area, again from Spitz and Fisher's Medical Legal Investigation of Death, 3rd edition, on page 29, as follows. An ideal post-mortem evaluation protocol of the rate of gastric emptying should include, number 1, a description of the nature, amount, size, and condition of the stomach contents. Number 2, a microscopic examination of the contents if the contents are difficult to identify or are partially liquefied by the digestive process. 3, an examination of the small intestine for undigestible markers, for example, corn kernels, tomato peels, to see how far ahead certain digested foods travel. 4, a toxicological examination of both blood and stomach contents for drugs and alcohol. 5, an evaluation of the prior medical and psychological status and related medications and drugs. Is that what you read, and is that in part what you relied upon?
Yes.
Does that ideal protocol mention anywhere saving the stomach
I
contents
don't know,
at
John.
all?
I've never seen this movie
Does
before.
it mention saving the stomach contents to protect your backside in a high-profile case?
No.
Doctor, did Dr. Golden describe on Form 16 the volume that he found in the stomach?
Oh, I thought you guys
Yes, he
were
did.
home.
Did he describe the...
I thought you were bringing him home. I thought you guys were settling in. But he's still at the hospital. Come on, dude, get home. Tell him I said that. Tell him I said it's enough. Prove it, Chitty.
contents?
Yes, he did.
And did he describe in his protocol
Well, you missed the part where they were ladling things out of her stomach, Josh. You just missed it. Stomach contents gotten by a ladle. Like for soup now.
Page 11.
Mel, tell us again about the 2 soups you're making today. Are you going to use a ladle for those?
Doctor, inviting your attention to page 11 of Dr. Golden's protocol. Do you find there a description by Dr. Golden of an examination of the stomach contents?
Yes.
And before you have to answer another question, I think we have a couple
Prove it, Nan.
Thank you.
What has Dr. Golden included as a description on page 11 for the stomach contents?
Examination of the gastric contents reveals approximately 500 ml of chewed semi-solid food in the stomach. Recognizable food particles are identified as follows: pieces of pasta appearing to be rigatoni, fragments of apparent spinach leaves, and the remainder chewed, partially digested, non-recognizable food material.
And what you just read, let me outline in red. And I'll write the word stomach contents, words at the top on the blow-up, page 11. Doctor, you indicated 500 cc's, cubic centimeters. The report actually indicates ml. Is there some relationship between cc's and ml's?
They are the same.
Now, doctor, from the description given by Dr. Golden, he has indicated recognizable food particles. Is this to represent a naked eye identification of the stomach contents?
Yes.
And according to the ideal post-mortem evaluation suggested in Spitz and Fisher,
Okay.
a
Spitz and Fisher are talking about naked eye figuring out what's in the stomach. Okay. All right. We have hit on jobs I never, ever want to hear about ever again or hold. I don't care if they make $400,000 a year. I do never want to know what's in someone's stomach contents. Never. And I am mildly curious to know how often the medical examiner says, how did that get in there? I gotta know, but I'm not gonna look it up because I don't really want to know any more information about stomach contents. Oh no, guys, we're in the OJ trial though. You know what that means? Oh my gosh. They're gonna be talking about stomach contents for 6 freaking months. We're gonna have to get past it, this grossness of it.
microscopic examination of the contents is in order in this ideal evaluation protocol if the contents are difficult to identify, is that correct?
Yes.
Or are partially liquefied by the digestive process, is that correct?
Yes.
Given,
Go ahead. No, I'm just concerned because the
How
document's
did
obscured
that
by
get
the
there?
exhibit.
Will someone just move juror number 7, please? Please.
Still. Well,
Doctor, given the description by Dr. Golden of the stomach contents, in your opinion, was there any basis under this ideal protocol to have a microscopic examination?
No,
Why not?
because you have recognizable food fragments there, and he has clearly identified them as rigatoni and spinach, and there's no necessity for a microscopic examination.
Doctor, assuming that there has been testimony in this court from a server at the Mezzaluna restaurant that Nicole Brown Simpson on the night of June 12, 1994 had rigatoni as part of the food that she had at the restaurant, does it appear that Dr. Golden has accurately described that in his protocol? Oh, well, you may answer the question.
This trial
Yes.
is making me
Now,
hungry
Doctor,
and grossed
there
out
is in this ideal.
simultaneously.
Let me ask a
I
couple
thought
of
only my
clarifying questions.
ex-husband could
When
do
someone
that.
suggests an ideal protocol, does that mean that something less is not reasonable? A protocol that is less complete is not reasonable.
No.
What does ideal mean?
Ideal mean is what one would like to have in a particular situation, which is complete.
And takes into account nothing about limitations of resources?
Limitation of resources is a different factor in this, because limitation of resources will prevent you having what is sometimes ideal.
That's
But-
what, I'm sorry.
But you also have to take into consideration what is medically necessary in our office.
And what I'm asking is there a distinction between what may be medically necessary and what may be ideal if you had unlimited resources and the best of all possibilities available?
That is correct. If you had unlimited resources, we could save everything on every person we autopsy. But we have to use our medical knowledge and then do what is necessary on every case we handle in our office, only do things which are medically necessary.
And how does judgment enter into the exercise of that decision-making process?
Judgment is being the chief medical examiner for the county. I felt in my judgment from years of experience that some cases you need to do a little more, even though it's not medically necessary. And sometimes, even though we don't do it on every case, we may have to do it because you like to have such certain results available, even though you know it's going to be of no use.
And in this case, did you make a judgment on June 14th that because this was a high publicity case being followed by the media, that it would have been safer to save everything, even if there was not a medical indication for doing so?
Yes.
Is that the exercise of medical judgment in your opinion, doctor?
No.
What is it?
In this particular situation, it was my in this particular situation, it was my judgment to ask him to save it. That's why he saved it on Goldman. I asked him to save it on Goldman's autopsy.
And in fact, did Dr. Golden save the stomach contents of Mr. Goldman?
Yes, he did.
Did you feel there was any medical reason to save the stomach contents of Mr. Goldman?
No.
Why did you ask him to do that?
The same reason I gave you earlier, because I felt it's good to have this specimen available in case we need to have it available for the any other person who wants to evaluate it, or if there was a suspect who was found, so that the defense personnel may have a ability to evaluate it.
Now, doctor, just a couple more questions on this ideal protocol that called for an examination of the small intestine for undigestible markers, for example, corn kernels, tomato peels, to see how far ahead certain digested foods traveled. What does that mean, if anything, to you as a forensic pathologist?
Some food material like nuts and corn kernel, which you just mentioned, don't get digested in the stomach, and they are difficult food material to digest, and they pass through the intestinal tract, and that can be sometimes used to determine when the last meal was eaten if you have a person who has died. Normally the stomach empties in anywhere from, depending on the amount of the meal a person has taken, from 2 hours to 4 hours, depending on what was eaten. And if you have particles which are not digested in the stomach, you can find that they reach to the lower portion of the small intestine called the ileocecal valve in about 8 hours.
I think the reporter would like for you to spell ileocecal valve.
ileocecal valve. So what is being discussed here is when you open the intestinal tract, you can see where the location of these undigested corn kernel and nuts are present. But for this, you need to tie the intestine in different segments to make sure that when you remove the intestine from the body, they don't mix up and you have a correct evaluation and not an incorrect evaluation.
Now, doctor, for nuts or similar kinds of difficult to digest materials to pass into the intestines, would you expect that, assuming they'd been eaten at the same time as what's identified in Dr. Golden's summary of the stomach contents, that that would have passed as well, passed into the intestines?
Yes.
We're going to talk in much greater detail about the time of death issue and the use, if any, of stomach contents for that. But for our present purposes, doctor, is there anything else about your discussion with Dr. Golden regarding the stomach contents that we have not discussed as to why you did it?
Nothing else. It was just my instruction to him to save Goldman, and when I found that he had not saved Nicole's stomach contents.
Doctor, the last factor in this ideal protocol calls for an evaluation of the prior medical and psychological status and related medications and drugs, I assume of the decedent?
Yes.
Does that have any application to this case of Nicole Brown Simpson?
No.
Why not?
Because she didn't die from a drug overdose, and there was no indication that she was on drugs when we did the autopsy, and the toxicology screen is also negative.
2:30.
And the toxicology screen is also negative.
May I have just one more?
Certainly.
Is there anything else regarding the autopsy of Nicole Brown Simpson that you feel that you should bring to the attention of the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that we have not discussed to this point?
No.
I'm going to change now, Your Honor, into another series of materials.
Since we're already grossed out,
That'll carry us through to when the court wishes.
something horrible happened to me yesterday with my hair. And I can't get over it because it was really gross. I am short. I am a short person. It is rare that I walk into something hanging down. I just don't, because I am short. And normally people hang things high enough where an average sized human being will not walk into it. I'm also blind because, you know, I'm usually, you know, looking at the back of my head, looking all around when I'm living and not really just looking right in front of me. So I was out doing something somewhere. That's as far as we'll go there. And I stood up and I turned and I walked directly into a fly strip. One of those super sticky things, you know, just like hang down. But they normally hang down real high. So normal people don't come in contact with them. And I'm not normal, I'm short. And it got into my hair. Like someone had to pull it out because they are super sticky. They aren't a little sticky. They are superty duperty sticky mess. 3 times I've washed this hair. 3 times. I think I'm gonna have to cut it out. I'm gonna try oil next. I got some nice sweet smelling baby oil upstairs. I thought I got it out, but it dried and yeah. I am never going anywhere near that whole building ever again. I can't. I just can't. Yeah, I might just shave my whole head. I might just go bald for a bit. Me and Bobby are going to be twinsies. Bobby, do you have any words of advice if I go bald? Like, do I have to rub oil on it every day? Or I guess I'm definitely going to have to put sunblock on it. Because I'll burn. That will burn very quick. Because it's been covered my entire life. It was probably covered since before I was born. And they're talking about stomach contents, and I don't know how much more I can take of grossness. I need to go back to the pink sparkly helicopter to get through this. It was after work, thank God, because imagine going to work as a server. Now, I guess it really wouldn't matter because my hair is up in a bun and a little, it'd been fine, but ugh. I tried shampoo and conditioner. That didn't do it. I thought it did. It felt like it did. And then when I got out and it started drying, I felt it. So then I tried Bath and Body Works. I can't remember what scent it is. Cherry blossom. Japanese cherry blossom. That did not work. And then I tried Dawn. I can't say that word. Hold on. Sorry, I'm so sorry. So, now I'm going to go with straight oil. Because you know when you get bubblegum stuck in your hair? That usually strips it right off. So, my ex is shorter than me. Yes, he is. He's a tiny little man. It's because he has no heart, so he didn't grow. Try rum. Hell no, I don't abuse alcohol. I drink it. Come on. That's worse than gross. Me too, Nan. Me too. That's right, peanut butter, but that's because it has oil in it. So I'm thinking the beautifully smelling baby oil will do the same thing. Plus, I eat peanut butter, so it might not make it to the hair. Especially after this riveting stomach content conversation.
Just a break, I'm not positive. So then we can move during the break.
He's bigger than his best friend. No, just kidding. I don't know that. I wish I did, though. That would be my best. The one thing I regret is not banging his friends and family on the way out. Next time I'll know.
Mr. Kelberg.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, before we move into the autopsy of Ronald Goldman, I want to ask you a few questions about this process that you have undertaken in reviewing all of the autopsy materials in both cases. Doctor, is it an uncommon experience for you to review autopsy materials in cases for which you were not the actual autopsy surgeon?
It's not at all uncommon in my capacity.
How does this come about?
I review cases and close cases for doctors who are no longer with the department. I review cases for purposes of court testimony taken in conjunction with photographic review for doctors who have either passed away or no longer with the department, so that the department responds to the needs of the criminal justice system as far as testimony goes for forensic expertise, forensic pathology expertise. I review files whenever I get queries from law enforcement agencies.
I'm sorry, when you get
Queries.
inquiries?
From law enforcement agencies, from families of the people who have died. So you have to review these files for various reasons, and I've done depositions on reports of other physicians. And so basically there are many reasons why I do this quite commonly, reviewing other doctors' reports and review photographs. Sometimes a doctor has closed a case and there may be questions raised, and I have to review the whole file and the photographs and microscopic studies to look into some new information brought to our attention and reopen the case. So there are many reasons why I have to evaluate a case.
Doctor, can you approximate how many times you have testified as a forensic pathologist on a case for which you were not the original autopsy surgeon?
Hundreds of times.
Doctor, have you ever had to spend the kind of time that you have spent in this case when you have done the similar process in these other cases?
No.
Overruled.
No.
Is the process, nevertheless, setting aside the amount of time, is the process you have undertaken here any different than the process you undertake in these other cases when you are called to testify on a case for which you were not the original autopsy surgeon?
The process is no different. You have to go through the same process. You have to review the report, you have to review the photographs, and sometimes if the report doesn't have the medical, let's say somebody who has been hospitalized, we need the medical information, you need to look at the medical information. So the process is not different, but here I had to do a certain few other, some other work in addition to what I normally do.
Doctor, in your experience of testifying in cases for which you were not the original autopsy surgeon, have you reached independent opinions from any opinions expressed in any report from the actual autopsy surgeon, which was different than the original autopsy surgeon's opinion?
Is this for testimony, or is it for changing a cause of death and manner of death? In what context do you want me to answer that question?
First of all, in the context in which you review these cases where you will be testifying for the medical examiner who actually performed the autopsy, do you have, as a reason for doing so, the need to independently, that is on your own, from your review of the materials, form opinions on issues like cause and manner of death?
Yes.
And have you done that process where at the end your opinion differed from any opinion expressed by the actual medical examiner who performed the autopsy?
Sometimes it's happened.
Is there any feeling that you have that what you are really doing is merely puppeting an opinion that was expressed in a report from the actual medical examiner rather than being an independent assessment by you of these issues?
I make an independent assessment. My opinion, most of the time, will concur with the opinion of the medical examiner. If my opinion is different, I state my opinion. If my findings are different when I do independent review of photographs as I've done in this case, I've given you my independent measurements and opinion. I have couched my opinions based on what I can support with my independent review. And as I told you earlier when I came to this court, I'm here to tell the truth as I see it in anything I review.
Doctor, is the process you have undertaken in this case and these other cases where you were not the original autopsy surgeon similar in nature to what forensic pathologists who are retained by people charged with crimes do when they evaluate issues of forensic pathology in a criminal homicide case?
Yes.
Doctor, we're going to move into the autopsy of Ronald Goldman. Your Honor, I have a series of exhibits I'd ask to be marked. May I have just a moment with Mr. Shapiro, please?
You may. Would this be a good place to take a break?
Anytime the court would wish to do so is fine.
I mean, do you need the time to organize your exhibits and
We
reorganize
need
the
to
board?
move the ones we've been using to the back and get the ones that have been to the back to the
All right.
front.
Given the number and size of these exhibits, perhaps we ought to take a break now and let you
Whatever
organize.
the court wishes.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our 15-minute recess, our first 15-minute recess for the Thursday afternoon. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. We'll stand in recess for 15.
Two Form 20 diagrams which bear respectively the identifying notation at the bottom right-hand corner, Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, collectively as 356D as in dog. A similar series of Form 21s, only Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3, and ask that they collectively be marked 356E. A similar series of Form 22 documents with Roman numerals 1 through 3, 3 pages, collectively as F, 356F. A series of Form 23 diagrams, also with 3 of them, Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3, collectively as G, 356G. A Form 20F as in Frank as 356H. A Form 20H as 356I. And this H is a form that shows the 4 different views of the human skull. A 20G, which is the one showing the skull from the top exterior and the internal view as 20J, I'm sorry, 356J. A Form 24 as 356K. A Form 20H, this is the form with the human skeleton outline, as 356L. A Form 42 stab wound chart as 356M as in Mary. A 5-page autopsy report, addendum report, which is, for the first 4 pages, a mixture of typing, handwriting, and the last page, what appears to be all handwriting, as 356N as in Nancy. A 5-page, July 1, 1994, typewritten autopsy report, addendum report, as 356O. A 2-page series of toxicological analysis reports, one dated June 21, 1994, one dated August 11, 1994, collectively to be marked, Your Honor, as 356P as in Paul. A Form 42 appearing to bear the signatures of Dr. Vale and Dr. Anselmo, and a corresponding Form 13 typewritten bearing their signatures collectively, Your Honor, as 356Q. And finally, in this series, Your Honor, the Form 1 and the Form 2, the Form 1 appearing to be identical to the 298B as in boy form, but without any redaction, but collectively as 356R. May they be so marked?
So marked.
Also, Your Honor, I have a series of boards that I would ask collectively to be marked as Exhibit 357 and designated on the back of each board, similar to what we were doing with the ground charts, from 0G through 13G. Counsel, will you stipulate that these charts, Exhibit 357, are exact replicas of the Exhibits 356A through R, with the exception that they are blow-ups?
All right, thank you, counsel.
Doctor, the various materials that I described as exhibits being marked 356A through R, have you reviewed all of those documents with respect to an evaluation of the circumstances surrounding the death of Ronald Goldman?
Yes, I have.
Have you also reviewed one-to-one photographs, life-size photographs that were obtained from the negatives for photographs made on June 14th, 1994 as part of the original autopsy process?
Yes.
Have you basically reviewed all of the available medical information on the Ronald Goldman autopsy for the purposes of reaching, if you can, independent conclusions on a variety of issues?
Yes.
And do those issues include the cause of Mr. Goldman's death,
Yes.
the manner of Mr. Goldman's death,
Yes.
whether one single-edged knife could have caused all sharp force injuries to Mr. Goldman,
Yes.
the source or sources for any blunt force trauma found on Mr. Goldman's body,
Yes.
whether one person killed Mr. Goldman as well as Nicole Brown Simpson,
Yes.
the blood patterns, that is the flow of blood expected from any injuries sustained by Mr. Goldman in the course of his death,
Yes.
and on the issue of how long Mr. Goldman lived from the time of receipt of any first injury until the time of death.
Yes.
Have you been able to reach independent judgments on all of these materials?
Yes, I have.
Doctor, just as a, again, a kind of big-ticket approach, what is your opinion independent opinion to a reasonable medical certainty on the cause of Mr. Goldman's death,
He died of multiple sharp force injuries,
which resulted in what?
resulted in bleeding, loss of blood, and death.
And when you described, in acknowledging a lay term I posed, bleeding to death, when describing the cause of Nicole Brown Simpson's death, would the same apply to the death of Ronald Goldman?
Yes.
Doctor, did you form an independent opinion regarding the manner of death?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
Death in the hands of another, homicide.
Doctor, did you form an opinion as to whether a single-edged knife could have caused all of the sharp force injuries received by Ronald Goldman?
Yes, I did.
What is that opinion?
A single-edged knife could have caused all the injuries and sharp force injuries in Mr. Ron Coleman.
From your evaluation of all sharp force injuries, can you exclude the possibility as to some of those sharp force injuries that a double-edged knife may have been involved?
No.
For the same reasons that you have expressed with respect to the Nicole Brown Simpson issues.
Yes.
Did you see, however, any evidence that there was in fact a second knife which was not this single-edged knife you described as being a possible weapon for all of the sharp force
I'll
injuries?
be right back,
I
guys.
mean, if I saw any injury
I'll be
which would
back.
reflect unique characteristics for such a weapon?
Bobby.
Yes.
No.
Bobby, you're in charge.
Doctor, did you also evaluate the circumstances available to estimate a range for time of death for Mr. Goldman's death?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a board of photographs that, 6 photographs, sharp force injuries, blunt force trauma to the face, neck, and right shoulder of Mr. Goldman. May this be marked as Exhibit 358.
358.
Doctor, before I reach for that exhibit, in your analysis of all of the materials, did you find, first of all, that Dr. Golden was the autopsy surgeon? Did you find that he was?
Yes.
You knew that, of course.
Yes.
Did you find that Dr. Golden made a lot of mistakes in the course of the autopsy of Ronald Goldman?
Yes, he made mistakes.
A lot of mistakes, Doctor?
Yes.
Did you evaluate each mistake that you identified
Yes, I did.
for the purpose of assessing its significance, if any, to each of the issues that we've posed here today?
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as to whether, singularly or taken collectively, any of the mistakes that you attribute to Dr. Golden for the Ronald Goldman autopsy have any significance on any of the issues we have identified?
No.
Your opinion is? I'm not sure if the no, I may have lost track of the question myself. Is the no that you have no opinion, or is the no that your opinion is it has no significance?
My opinion is that it has no significance to my opinion on the cause of death, what type of weapon could have caused all the injuries, and other issues which were discussed earlier.
Doctor, we're going to, much like we did through the course of the Nicole Brown Simpson autopsy, ask you to explain your reasons for finding that there is no significance from any or all of these mistakes by Dr. Golden on these issues that you've identified. Now, with that, Doctor, let me start with Exhibit 358. And again, with the court's permission, could you step to the easel? Doctor, all of these photographs from Exhibit 358 are photographs that were taken on June 14, 1994 in the course of the autopsy process for Ronald Goldman.
Yes.
I want to invite your attention, again, much like the photographs on Ms. Brown Simpson, there are designations, they're somewhat faint, with a letter, this time G instead of B, and a numerical designation afterwards for each of the photographs. Do you see that?
Yes.
Doctor, first of all, is the title of this board accurate with respect to what is shown in the collective group of photographs?
Yes.
Let me invite your attention first, if I could, Doctor, to photograph G37. I'll point to it from here.
Just,
You have to keep your voice up, don't forget, Doctor. And Doctor, I'm not sure if you may be blocking any juror's view if you get in front of the board. You can use the pointer. G37 is the photo I'm pointing to now.
Yes.
First of all, doctor, what in general terms is shown in that photograph?
The photograph shows the neck area and facial area of Mr. Coleman. The neck is exposed by a little bit of the extension of the neck, and you can see evidence of sharp force injuries in the neck. I'll address them one by one. And there's also a sharp force injury to the right collarbone area. The sharp force injuries I just alluded to include the...
Let me interrupt you before you start in. Just number one, is something being done by someone with the coroner's office for the purposes of the photography to make the area more exposed?
Yes, we have a head block there to...
What? You have a head block there?
A block underneath the neck.
Yeah.
A block underneath the neck to show the neck area better so that the injuries could be well documented.
Now, doctor, could we start, please, if you've indicated, I think already, you prepared a wound chart
Yes,
for Mr. Goldman, much like you prepared a wound chart for Nicole Brown Simpson?
yes,
And does this wound chart serve to identify each and every injury, wound, or finding that you have made on all of the photographs you have reviewed?
yes,
And in your review of photographs, did they include photographs that are not included in the array of photographs that the jury will see?
yes,
And again, we have some photographs, for example, the one in the upper right-hand corner, G50, that has obviously been cropped. That is pursuant to the order of Judge Ito.
yes,
But you have reviewed in the one-to-one photograph, the life-size photograph, the actual full photograph. Is that correct?
yes,
Now, doctor, does this form that you've prepared, which is our exhibit, I believe 351, Your Honor? Is that? I want to be sure we marked the wound chart for Mr. Goldman. I thought we did at the time. If I have a moment, I can check. Yes, we did. Sorry? Does this wound chart also identify where, if at all, as to each injury, finding, and so forth, Dr. Golden made some entry in the protocol
yes,
or made some designation in one or more of the diagrams
yes,
or addressed some aspect in an addendum?
yes,
Let me start then, Doctor. Oh, also last thing, I'm sorry, preliminarily. Did you include then an overview of your findings, not just a description, but your findings in the last column under comment?
yes,
And did you also indicate as to each sharp force injury whether it could only be caused by a single-edged knife or that it could be caused by either a single-edged or double-edged knife?
yes, I have done that also.
Now let us start, if we could, with G37. And let me invite your attention. Is the area of the photo that I'm using my finger to trace what you have described as injury number one?
Yes,
What is that, doctor?
it is a superficial incised wound to the front of the neck, measures approximately 3 inches in length and gapes in width up to 3/16 of an inch in the photograph.
As an incised wound, its length is greater than the depth of penetration?
Yes, it's a shallow incised wound.
Does Dr. Golden describe this superficial incised wound in his original autopsy protocol?
Yes, he does.
Does he diagram this superficial incised wound in one or more diagrams?
He does.
Is this addressed at all in any addendum?
He does address it in the addendum.
Before we get into the whys of all of that, are you able to determine, doctor, whether that superficial incised wound was inflicted before death, at or around the time of death, or after death?
Because before that,
Why are you able to say that?
because of the bleeding in the tissues, which one can see, and also the appearance of the wound.
Doctor, is this superficial incised wound a non-fatal wound?
Yes,
And is it consistent with being inflicted with a single-edged knife, such as you described? The knife, in general terms, would have to be for the Nicole Brown Simpson sharp force injuries.
yes,
Doctor, before we get into the protocols and so forth on that wound, I want to invite your attention to an area underneath that where I'm tracing now. Is this an area you have described as injury number 2?
yes.
What is that?
It is another incised wound which is below the injury number 1 I just described. And this photograph only shows a 3-inch portion of it, because this wound extends not only from the left side of the neck all the way to the right side of the neck, but this photograph only shows a portion of the front of the neck.
Doctor, is this also an ante-mortem superficial incised wound?
Yes,
Is it also non-fatal?
yes.
Doctor, are you...
In taking contact with all the fatal wounds, or
Well, let me ask it this way. Is there any way that you can determine from merely the appearance of the wound, a minimum length of time that Mr. Goldman must have had a beating heart from the time that that incise wound was inflicted until death?
It could have been just within a minute before his death. He could have had the wound, and as long as he had blood pressure, it'll have this appearance. It's only a superficial wound.
Would the same apply to injury number 2, the lower incised wound?
Yes.
Now, I want to invite your attention, if I could, please, Doctor, to the photo to the right and slightly below photo G37, which has the designation G55. Do you see that, Doctor?
Yes.
Do you see in G55 any aspect of injury number 1, the higher superficial incised wound that we saw in G37?
Yes, we do.
What do we see in G55?
Injury number 1 is seen in the front of the neck here, portion of it. Actually, the end here is seen here in this photograph here.
For the record, what you pointed to initially was what is the right side end of injury number 1 as seen in G37 and the equivalent aspect of the injury on G55. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes.
Do you see any aspect of injury number 2, the lower incised superficial wound, in photograph G55?
Yes, you see it continuing, the right end continuing all the way, and it seems to end in a larger stab/incise wound of the right side of the back of the neck here.
And you're indicating an area that is perhaps half an inch above the top border of a blue photographic identification card in photograph G55?
Yes.
Doctor, with respect to that second lower incised wound, and inviting your attention to photograph G40, the photograph that is just to your right, do you see another aspect of that particular wound?
Yes, you see that wound ending in this larger stab/incise wound on the back of the right side of the neck. You can see it ending here.
And is that area where it is ending and the stab wound that you've indicated, G40, somewhat in the center of the photograph, is that the same wound seen in a fuller context as what appears on the left side of the, I shouldn't say the left side, it's the right side of the neck, but it's the left side of the photograph of G55?
Yes.
Now, Doctor, inviting your attention over to this photograph, which is to the left side of the photograph board, G51, do you see either the upper or the lower superficial incised wound in that photograph?
Yes, you see a portion of the superficial incised wound number 1 above the large injury on the left side of the neck.
And that large injury on the left side of the neck seen in G51, is that also seen in G37, the photo to the right?
Yes.
And would you point to it again? And for the record, you're indicating what appears to be a gaping wound about in the middle of the photograph and on its right margin. Doctor, is there any significance to you in the relative appearance of the two superficial incised wounds?
Yes.
What is that significance?
They look like controlled cuts on the front of the neck, which would indicate to me that the Mr. Goldman was at some point in the altercation was immobilized, and there were controlled cuts applied to his neck because they are parallel and they seem to run in a left to right, seem to run from one side of the neck to the other.
What is it about a parallel nature, parallel meaning in the same direction?
They are adjacent to each other and parallel to each other. That is, they have the same axis, horizontal axis in the neck. If you look at it, you can see that both of them are running like a railroad track, adjacent to each other.
Why is that significant to you to indicate a control type set of injuries?
Because one, the lower wound is a longer wound of, if you take all the measurements, it's about 6 inches long. You have two wounds which are linear, superficial, parallel to each other, which would indicate that Mr. Goldman was held and immobilized, and these cuts were made, and there was no struggle at that point because of the appearance of the wound. That would be my opinion on that two wounds.
Doctor, if I can slide under here, and if you would use me as Mr. Goldman and use yourself as the perpetrator, can you indicate the relative position you believe is demonstrated from these two superficial incised wounds?
One position would be holding him in some manner like this and putting your knife in front of the neck and running the knife parallel. It would be like some kind of threatening cuts.
And for the record, Your Honor, Dr. Lakshmanan with his left arm had it around my upper chest area bent at the elbow, and with his, I'm sorry, doctor, could you put your right arm back where you had it? And with the right arm, where did you have that? And with his right arm extended in front about the middle portion of my neck, and then moving the right arm appears to be as if holding an object, pulling it towards the right side of my neck.
Yes,
The other factor which supports this theory is these two small nicks above and the abrasion below the second injury you see here, which we can discuss, and because that would also indicate that the knife was in the front.
Doctor, you'll turn, please.
The knife was in the front of the neck, and the tip of the knife also caused the smaller cut you see above the superficial cut, which I just described as injury number 1 here. And there's also a smaller abrasion below the larger cut in the front of the lower part of the neck.
Doctor, if you used the term Mr. Goldman was immobilized at the time.
At least temporarily during when these incisions were made.
Immobilized meaning what?
He was held tight so that he couldn't move, so that these controlled cuts could be made.
Doctor, do you have an opinion in the relative course of the events when those two superficial incised wounds, injuries 1 and 2, were received by Mr. Goldman relative to the time of his death?
Given,
You may answer the question.
I would favor that they occurred earlier during the altercation because you have other wounds which are more serious wounds, and they would have caused death in a rapid manner. Once we discuss all the wounds, you'll see that quite a few of his wounds struck certain vital structures which would have resulted in bleeding and death rapidly after that without medical treatment. So this would have occurred earlier in the struggle.
Doctor, if Mr. Goldman were physically able to move about to try and avoid a sharp force injury such as is seen in injury number 1 or number 2, would you expect to see the parallel nature of those two injuries?
No.
Why not?
There would be other cuts, and it won't be so parallel and linear as we see it in this photograph and all the 3 photographs we have studied so far.
Doctor, the nicks that you were pointing out, I'm afraid I did not get a chance to actually see very clearly.
This is one nick here, but of course this is an abrasion. I'm talking about this nick here.
For the record, Your Honor, where Dr. Lakshmanan is pointing is to an area above injury number 1, and it is more towards the left side from the midline of the neck under the chin.
yes.
And where he said, not this, I think he said the word abrasion, he was referring to some discoloration apparent in the photograph, which is below the lower injury number 2 in about the center of that injury.
Yes.
And I've labeled these as injury number 3 and number 4 for my evaluation of the photographs in my photographic evaluation description.
3 being this cut.
This cut, and 4 being this abrasion below these, the other superficial cut. So to recapitulate, you have injury number 1, which is the superficial cut in the upper part of the front of the neck. You have injury number 2, which is the lower wound, which is parallel like a railroad track I mentioned earlier. You have number 3, which is a smaller cut above injury number 1, which is on the left side of the front of the neck, and you have a smaller abrasion here.
Doctor, is there anything about the appearance of either the ends or the margins of injury number 1 that assists you in forming an opinion that it is a control type sharp force injury?
There's no additional cuts there, looks as though these are threatening cuts.
I'm sorry.
Like, this is something which you threaten somebody when you do this kind of injury. You can see these type of injuries when somebody is being immobilized and you're threatening them that you're going to do bodily harm to them when you do this kind of injury.
And is the same answer applicable to your examination of the edges, margins, and ends of injury number 2?
Yes.
Doctor, was injury number 3, this cut, addressed by Dr. Golden in the original protocol?
No.
Was it diagrammed by Dr. Golden in any of the available forms?
No.
Was it addressed in any way in Dr. Golden's addendum?
No.
Injury number 4, what you've described as an abrasion in the area below the incised wound, the marked number 2.
I'm sorry. I labeled it as injury number 4, this smaller one, and this is injury number 5.
All right, you initially had indicated that the cut was injury number 3.
And that is, go ahead.
And the abrasion was number 4?
Yes.
But in fact, for the purposes of our Exhibit 351, your wound chart, you have actually labeled the cut as injury number 4?
Yes.
And the abrasion is injury number 5?
Yes.
What is injury number 2? I'm sorry, injury number 3.
Injury number 3 refers to this larger wound in the left side of the neck, which is described better in G51.
And we'll get to that momentarily. Doctor, With respect to the cut, which is now you say injury number 4, I'm sorry, did Dr. Golden describe that in the protocol?
No.
Or diagram it?
No.
Or address it in the addendum?
No.
And then the abrasion number 5, injury number 5, described in the protocol?
No.
Diagrammed anywhere?
No.
Addressed in the addendum?
No.
All mistakes?
Yes.
Any significance singularly or collectively to any of the big ticket questions?
No.
Doctor, are you able to offer an opinion as to how Mr. Goldman sustained the abrasion that you have identified as injury number 5?
That could have been from the, just a scratch from the tip of the knife. It was one possibility. And the other possibility is when he tried during the struggle, it could have been also a scratch injury.
A scratch injury in what manner, doctor?
From the person who's perpetrating the act, he could have scratched that area, this small abrasion here.
If, again, you use me as representative of Mr. Goldman and yourself as representative of the perpetrator, how is such a scratch injury inflicted?
Underneath the second wound, when you're doing it with this part of the thumb, and you're holding the knife this way, that can also happen.
And for the record, Dr. Lakshmanan took the same position as previously described, but this time with his right hand, he had the back of his thumb pressing against that area of my neck and drawing it across to the right side of the neck.
Noted. Thank you.
Doctor, in your opinion, both injuries 4 and 5 are ante-mortem because of the manner in which you've described you believe they were received?
Yes.
As to cause of death or any of the other issues, do they have any significance?
No.
Doctor, let me, as long as you've had injury number 3, is injury number 5 the last injury that you have identified on G37?
No, there's one more stab wound, cut to the right clavicle area, which is...
I was going to say, why don't we take care of that? Is that injury number 6 then?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a incised wound to the right clavicle area.
Can you point it out again for us, please? Your Honor, Dr. Lakshmanan is pointing to the lower left corner area of G37 and to an area that is just immediately below the left edge of the blue paper that is seen behind the neck.
Yes, approximately an inch from the scale card.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, what is that injury number 6?
It's a stab/incised wound of the right clavicle area.
Is it an ante-mortem sharp force injury in your opinion?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the appearance of the wound and the other features you see there.
Doctor, is that area of the body an area that would normally have been covered by the shirt that you told us, I think yesterday, you examined at some point the shirt worn by Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
Did you find a corresponding defect, using your term, I believe, in the shirt for that particular sharp force injury that you've described as injury number 6?
No.
Does that surprise you in any way?
No, the shirt was pretty loose over Mr. Goldman, so the shirt could have been retracted at some point during the struggle when this wound was inflicted.
And if that retracted in the sense of pulled away from its normal position?
Yes.
If that had occurred, then would you expect to see necessarily the defect be in the area where if the shirt were worn normally, the shirt would be covering the area of injury number 6?
That's correct.
You would expect not to see it there?
I won't expect to see any defect in the clothing if that's what happened. And we don't have a defect in the clothing when we examined it in detail this year and last year. Correction, this year.
Doctor, let me ask you then if there's anything else you want to tell us about initially injury 1, injury 2, injury 4, injury 5, or injury 6?
Nothing other than what we already discussed, and injury number 6 was discussed in the diagram and protocol of Dr. Golden.
By the way, doctor, all of these sharp force injuries, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, are they all sharp force injuries that could have been caused by the same single-edged knife that you described as a knife which could have caused all of the sharp force injuries received by Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
Now, doctor, let's talk, if we can, about what you have described as injury number 3.
Yes. I'll refresh my notes here. This is a large incised stab, plus it's a complex sharp force injury to the left side of the neck. And in the 1:1 photograph, I measured this as 3 inches in the horizontal axis, that is on the side-to-side axis of the photograph. and in the gaping state it measured nearly a 15/16 of an inch. In the vertical axis, that is the up-down area of the photograph, it's a complex wound. There seems to be a cut in its lower margin here, in the left side of the photograph, in the margin, lower margin, near the left side of the photograph.
This is photograph G51.
In G51, and there's also a linear abrasion, which is 1.5 inches long, which extends below the complex injury, which I just described. The outer aspect of this injury on the right side of the photograph G51 shows a forking to the injury with an abrasion in between. It's a very complex injury.
Doctor, first of all, is it a fatal sharp force injury in your opinion?
Yes, this injury hit the internal jugular vein.
And is that the same vein that you described with respect to both the left and right sides of Nicole Brown Simpson, and that the major stab incise wound that you have testified, in your opinion, was the last sharp force injury she received?
Yes.
Was there evidence that the left side carotid artery was impacted by that sharp force injury, that stab/incise complex wound that you have identified as number 3?
No.
What causes such a complex wound to be, in your opinion, a fatal stab wound?
The bleeding from the vessel, from the internal jugular vein.
Doctor, do you have an opinion, setting aside all other injuries that may have been received prior to the time that injury was received, do you have an opinion as to how long, at a minimum, Mr. Goldman would remain alive? Let's start with just that, would remain alive.
With an internal jugular cut and heavy bleeding, and if there's no medical treatment, you could die sometimes immediately if you have an air embolism. But but the normal course of event is bleeding and death. They could live for up to 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on, without medical treatment, and the wound continues to bleed, and they don't seek medical treatment.
What's an air embolism?
Air embolism, because it's a large vein, the vein can sometimes suck air into the venous channel, and that can enter the heart and cause obstruction to the blood flowing from the right side of the heart, and that would result in death.
Doctor, is there a difference, in your opinion, as to the minimum amount of time Mr. Goldman would live from such a fatal stab wound, as from the amount of time such a wound in and of itself would take to incapacitate him from attempting to resist any further injury?
He would be able to, he won't be incapacitated till he goes into shock. And for him to go into shock, as I discussed earlier, for anybody go into shock, you need to lose 2/5 of your blood volume rapidly. And yesterday I discussed the blood volume in the body is about 5 liters. So you have to lose 2 liters of blood rapidly to go into shock. So till the time he goes into shock from that wound, assuming that's the only wound in your hypothetical situation, he would be able to be conscious and resist.
Doctor, is there any diminishment in the effort that can be made by Mr. Goldman to resist, even though he's in some sense able to resist, prior to the time he becomes unconscious from loss of 2/5 of his blood volume?
As the blood pressure drops because of blood loss, naturally he'll become weaker. So as time progresses, his ability to resist would decrease.
Doctor, do you have an opinion in the relative sequence or scheme of injuries received, sharp force injuries received by Mr. Goldman, as to where this injury number 3 came?
This could have come in the earlier or mid portion of the altercations, because we have 2 other injuries which are also serious injuries. He has a stab wound to the left abdomen which struck the aorta in 2 places, and you also have stab wounds to the right chest which hit the lung, and those injuries without medical treatment would have caused him to become in shock within a very short time, within a minute or 2. So if you take that in context with this wound could have occurred during that concurrently or earlier than those wounds. It could be either way. These are all serious. These are the 3 serious wounds he has, which would cause loss of blood pressure. And among the 3 wounds, the aortic wound would be more significant in bleeding and more rapid loss of blood pressure, than the jugular vein wound, which would take a longer time to lose blood pressure when you compare it to the big, large aortic bleed, which is in the lower part of the abdomen. So, and since I said that the aortic wound could cause loss of blood pressure in a minute, the jugular vein injury, if it had occurred within a minute before the aortic injury, it could cause significant bleeding also.
Doctor, as a big ticket type of question, do you have an opinion as to a minimum amount of time it would take for a properly motivated, physically fit human being with the element of surprise to have inflicted all of the sharp force injuries and blunt force trauma received by Mr. Goldman?
Sustained.
Doctor, have you considered, from your review of all of the evidence, the number of sharp force injuries sustained by Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
And considered the nature of what the body's reaction would be to those injuries?
Yes.
And have examined all of the blunt force trauma received by Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
Have examined, by physically being at the 875 Bundy location, any environmental sources like trees,
Yes.
trees, brushes, not brushes, excuse me, bushes, fences, gates, anything of that nature, which might be a source or sources for that blunt force trauma?
Yes, I have.
And have you evaluated a minimum period of time such a human being who is motivated, armed with a single-edged knife such as you described in approximate terms, could have inflicted all of those injuries on Mr. Goldman?
Sustained.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Doctor, assuming that a single person perpetrated all of these sharp force injuries on Mr. Goldman, and assuming that as a result of the lethal assault by that single individual on Mr. Goldman, he sustained all of the blunt force trauma you identified, and assuming that that single perpetrator was 6'2", 210 pounds, motivated, in a rage, with a knife with a 6-inch blade, can you form an opinion as to the minimum amount of time necessary under that hypothetical for that person to have inflicted these injuries?
Objections in the facts.
Or will,
You may answer the
yes, with corporal.
Hey guys, did they say whether he got hit in the stomach first? Like, did they say which was the first stab wound? Do they know? I was trying to pay attention, but I don't know. I missed that part.
Mr. Kelberg, you may resume with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may just temporarily stand in front of the monitor so that I can reread
You may.
the question to the doctor. Doctor, I'm asking you this hypothetical question. Doctor, assuming that a single person perpetrated all of the sharp force injuries on
I just gotta tell you. So, as soon as I get back, I don't read chat while I'm driving, obviously. I don't read chat while I'm driving. So every day I come back and I look at chat. Like, the first thing I try to do is look at chat to make sure I didn't miss anything important. And the first thing I see as soon as I sit down is 30 minutes until the tornado gets here. Now, we're having really bad weather here right now. However, I knew, without even knowing who typed it. I didn't see who typed it. I know now, but I knew they were talking about a child. I knew as soon as I read that, oh, someone has a child coming, and then I knew who said it, because I know. 30 minutes until the tornado gets here. Oh, look at the Nan. I just read Nan. Oh, tornado, granddaughter. Yeah.
Mr. Goldman, and assuming that as a result of the lethal assault by that single individual on Mr. Goldman, he sustained all of the blunt force trauma you identified, and assuming further that that single perpetrator was 6'2", weighed 210 pounds, was armed with a single-edged knife with a 6-inch blade, approximately as you have previously described. Can you form an opinion as to the minimum amount of time necessary under that hypothetical set of circumstances for that person to have inflicted these injuries on Mr. Goldman?
Within a few minutes, and you said even within a minute it's possible, because he has a certain number of sharp force injuries which could have been inflicted in that short time.
And doctor, in a set of circumstances such as I gave, and if in your opinion they could all have been inflicted and received in less than a minute, is that accurate?
Less than a minute is, yes.
How long would it have taken for Mr. Goldman to have been physically incapacitated from those injuries?
After receiving the injuries, how long will he be, how long will it take to get incapacitated?
Before he was physically incapacitated.
As I said, after the infliction of these injuries, he would be rapidly incapacitated, especially because of the aortic injury, the lung injury, and the jugular vein injury, which all would have been inflicted in this short period of time. You are talking about several major structures which are going to bleed, and he would go into shock very soon without medical treatment.
Rapidly, under a circumstance of all of these injuries being received within less than a minute, rapidly means what?
Within a minute, he would have been into shock, especially also talking about other sharp force injuries in the left side of the neck, the right side of the neck, in the back. So, to answer your question, all these sharp force injuries, which are of a certain number, they could have been inflicted within a minute, I said, and also he could have gone into shock within a minute after that.
Doctor, in your opinion, what is the minimum period of time that Mr. Goldman lived from the time the lethal assault began?
Without medical treatment, he would have died within 5 minutes.
Doctor, and with the court's permission again, can we ask the doctor to approach the photographs?
Yeah. Yes. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Lakshmanan, Dr. Lakshmanan, in describing injury number 3 as seen in the photograph G51, you mentioned a number of findings, including something about the tail, end of the wound, and so forth. I'd like you to clarify, if you would, in some fashion, each of those findings and what they signify to you.
I described this injury as a complex injury, which has this forking on the left side with an abrasion in between. The reason I said it's complex is it's not just a straight stab wound. There could have been an incised wound prior to this wound, which could have been extended into as a stab wound. There's been also some twisting involved. So really, it's just more than a simple stab wound or a simple incised wound. It's a complex wound. There are numerous processes which could have been taken place when this wound was created. This could be from either the movement of the weapon or the movement of the victim.
Is this an example of that schematic illustration number 3, if you remember back to, I believe, Tuesday, with what you look for in the form of wound patterns on the body in trying to identify single-edge or double-edge knives?
Yes.
Doctor, the forking that you described, what, if any, significance does that have to you?
Well, that's why I said there could have been an incised cut, a stab, then another cut here. So really, this fork will not really reflect the weapon itself, because that's why this wound could have been caused by either a single-edge weapon or a double-edge weapon.
But is it a wound which is consistent with that same single-edge knife that you talked about as being consistent with causing all of the sharp force injuries, both to Nicole Brown Simpson and to Ronald Goldman?
Yes.
Doctor, you also mentioned, did you say something about an abrasion around the margin?
Yes, there is a linear abrasion extending from the margin or the lower margin of the wound.
Would you point that out again? I'm sorry. For the record, Your Honor, this is on the lower edge of the wound as seen in photograph G51. Doctor, what is the significance, if any, of that finding?
Again, this would be the stabbing and cutting process is a dynamic process with the victim moving and the assailant stabbing. So when the knife is withdrawn or the assailant, or the victim tries to withdraw from the assailant, the knife which comes out can draw out like an abrasion in the margin.
Again, using myself as Mr. Goldman and yourself as the perpetrator, can you indicate how the knife can do that?
When the knife is penetrated and it's coming out, you can get a linear abrasion as the knife tip draws across the skin, either by the victim pulling away from the weapon or the weapon, as it's being withdrawn, draws across the skin.
And the part of the weapon that draws across the skin, we talked about if it's a single-edge knife, it has a blunt and a sharp edge. What edge is doing that?
The blunt edge.
And if it's a double-edged knife, obviously it's a sharp edge either side?
No, either side, no. If it's a double edge, it will be the tip which can draw an abrasion. But usually you'll expect a cut also, but here it's only an abrasion. So the tip of the double edge also could do an abrasion.
I'm sorry. So the abrasion in and of itself is not a basis on which you can say it's a single-edged knife versus a double-edged knife?
It would favor a single edge, but you cannot really exclude a double edge.
Your Honor, for the record, Dr. Lakshmanan, who was in front of me, actually, I think the court may recall this better than I do because I shouldn't have asked the question.
Who that's that? That's his daughter? Right? Is that his daughter? It can't be. It can't be his daughter. His daughter's not allowed to sit there.
All right, let me see counsel with the court.
Who is that?
Let me wait until 984 returns.
We need someone designated to watch and pay attention. So when we have random questions, they answer.
We also have a shorter date tomorrow. If you recollect, we'll be concluding tomorrow at 11:45 in the morning. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. All right? See you tomorrow morning. All right, we'll stand in recess, 9 o'clock. Mr. Douglas, Mr. Blazier, people represented by Mr. Kelberg and Mr. Lynch.
I think we have Mr. Darden back.
Mr. Darden's back there with the doctor. Morning, counsel. Morning, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Kelberg, you relocated the easel.
We have, Your Honor. I will point out for the court, again, my eyesight is not a good test, but because we have moved it back for the juror, I don't know the numbers, I apologize, but the juror who is seated in the first chair in the back row, and probably the juror next to
Juror
him,
7.
and possibly
Say it.
the juror in the front
Say
seat,
his name. Juror 7.
the front row. The distance is a factor. To see the clarity of these wounds, especially the smaller wounds, from that position, I think is very difficult. The alternative is, I would perhaps ask the court to ask the jurors, obviously pointing out that the court has moved the photographs back, but in the event the jurors feel a need to see the photographs at a closer inspection, that the court will make that available.
That's right, you know
My
his
suggestion
name,
would be when
Juror
I finish
7.
with a board completely, that the jurors be given an opportunity, as I understand they were with certain of the DNA exhibits, to basically walk in front of the exhibit and have an opportunity to examine it for some brief period of time.
All right, any comment, Mr. Shapiro?
No, Your
All right. All right, Deputy Magner. I'm sorry.
Just a procedural thing.
Marshall, late again. She's going to get it.
A future trivia question of who operated the Elmo at the O.J. Simpson trial is sick. And I indicated to Mr. Fairtlow that he should go home and not infect anyone else down here, and more importantly, take care of himself. We have not used the Elmo over the last couple of days. I do not anticipate using it in this morning's examination. If it comes up and it has to be used, we'll just make do without it until Monday.
Well, what we'll do is we have Mr. Simpson's counsel and his their staff have the ability to operate the Elmo, and I think as a professional courtesy, they'll be happy to do that.
Objection.
We'd appreciate
They
it.
don't know how to
Thank
do
you
it.
very much, Your Honor.
All right. That's just a matter of courtesy amongst counsel.
And they have been very courteous throughout to myself and Mr. Williams.
All right. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry, Mr. Carpenter, you had one other matter you wanted to address?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, good morning, sir.
Two matters. Morning, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would like to propose that the court pleases, in view of the high emotions that were in the court yesterday and the problems we had at the end of the day, that the court consider giving I have a proposed instruction for the autopsy photographs, and it's very brief, and I think the court would not have a problem with it. I think it's appropriate to read that this morning before we launch into the testimony.
All right, have you given Mr. Kelberg a copy?
No, Your Honor, I just had it sent.
Son of a gun! Son of a gun! They did it to us again. We deserve it. They owe it to us to show those parts. We didn't see anything during the end of the day yesterday. There was nothing. So, what happened? What did we miss? We deserve all of the trial, sir.
Here, and I will be glad to share it with Mr. Kilberg. What I'd like to do, Your Honor, is to indicate.
You only have one
I
copy?
want Nan's money,
I'm
too.
glad to make a copy.
All right. Why don't you have Mr. Lee make us some copies, Mrs. Robertson?
While they're doing that, Your Honor, I have one other matter I wanted to indicate to the court. We previously had a conversation with regard to the scheduling on Monday, and I would just propose to the court that I think, as the court indicated, we would perhaps meet half-day, depending upon how far we get today, and I would anticipate that people will still be in direct examination and still be using these photographs, and Monday being an important day to everyone, it would seem to me that it may be an appropriate day not to have testimony for the jury, and I'd like to propose that to the court, that for all the victims, that we take the balance of Monday off and perhaps use Monday for any motions the court might want to hear. And I propose that if the court pleases. I think that given the high emotions that we saw yesterday and the fact that we'll still be in the middle of the coroner's testimony, it'll be really a tough time for everyone, and I would just throw that out for the court's thinking, because we're going to do half-day at any rate.
Mr. Kelberg, any thoughts on that?
Do you think high emotions yesterday was something that actually happened that we missed? Or just the fact of the content that they went over in the pictures?
Your Honor, I think probably every day is a tough day for everyone who's associated with this case, from the families of Mr. Goldman and Ms. Brown-Simpson, the families of Mr. Simpson, the counsel, the court, the jurors. Quite frankly, I believe the sooner this case gets to the jury, the happier this jury will be. And I believe that if there is time available that can be used, then the time should be used. Whether it's the anniversary of the event, the anniversary of any funeral associated with the killings of these two human beings.
There we go.
There is going to be some memory
He just answered it. This is the anniversary of the day.
arising from this incident that is going to be commemorated during the next month or a month and a half. And I think it would be wiser to move forward than it is to acknowledge and give some sense of importance, which may have an influence that it should not have. So on that basis, I would prefer to try and do something with the jury in any time that's available. We do appreciate the court's consideration in allowing Dr. Lakshmanan to attend this international symposium to which he was committed many months ago.
Again, bizarro world. They are arguing the wrong sides. Shouldn't the defense be saying, let's move forward, let's not prejudice my client any further by making the anniversary more than it is. It's a day. We need to move forward by treating the anniversary as something special. You're prejudicing my client in some way, and the prosecution should be like, this is too sad for people, for the galley, for the families to be in court, so we need to take it. I don't know. Bizarro world. This trial is bizarro world.
So I realize with the court's indulgence, we are asking the court not to.
Yeah, Mel.
And with that understanding, I would not find it inappropriate for the court to accede to Mr. Cochran's request. But I, in a more generalized sense, believe that the time should be used as quickly and as efficiently and as effectively as possible to get this case to the jury for decision.
May I respond just briefly, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, as the court is aware, the defense has indicated to the court that not only do we want to work long hours and accede to you in response to our letter, but we'd be willing to work on Saturdays where that's possible. We want to do that also. And I might say to my learned colleague that one of the ways we get this case to the jury faster is to, speed up the testimony. And the direct examination has been very lengthy, but that's their decision. So we want to do that also. The reason we're not going to be here in the morning is because the doctor has another event. I thought about this last night, Your Honor, in view of the fact that it is a difficult day for all the victims in this case on Monday. We're going to be off half day. We have other things we can do. I'm not asking for us to be off. I'm saying that you may give us some, we have motions that are pending we could perhaps deal with. But I'm saying just given the emotions that we saw the other day, this court's very wise, and I think the court would consider that, we should consider that rather than coming in at 1:30. Since it is June 12th, and I think it will be a more difficult day for everyone. And so we want to move this case along and get it to the jury as soon as possible. Shifting gears, Your Honor, with regard to the proposed autopsy photos and what we saw yesterday, all we're asking is that if the court would instruct the jurors as follows, that as you've seen, the autopsy photographs introduced by the prosecution yesterday are extremely gruesome and disturbing. I try to use the court's words. In carrying out your duties as jurors, you must not be swayed by sentiment, conjecture, passion, or prejudice, taken from the jury instructions, I think. But both the people and the defendant have a right to expect that you will abide by the presumption of innocence, that you will conscientiously and dispassionately consider and weigh all the evidence without letting your emotions sway your judgment. When the case is eventually sent to you for deliberations, you will find the defendant not guilty unless the prosecution has proven his guilt or this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And what we try to do is incorporate what the law is in paragraph Calgic number 1.00 with 2.90, and we think this would be the appropriate time to give this instruction in view of the fact of the overwhelming emotions we saw in court yesterday, Your Honor.
Mr. Cutler?
Yes, Your Honor. There is certainly a first issue of do we need it at this stage? I'll leave that to the court's discretion. The court has observed this jury much longer than I, and the court obviously saw very clearly what the reactions were of the jurors. If the court's inclined to give any kind of limited instruction to the jury, let me start with the first sentence, which in my judgment is a characterization of the photographs, which is A, inaccurate, B, incomplete, and C, an invasion of the province of the jury to decide what they are. It is not unusual for defense counsel in a motion under 352 dealing
No,
with...
Jude, you have to stay. Sorry, I don't make the rules.
...argue that the photographs are, quote, gruesome, unquote. So, in an effort to convince a court that by being gruesome, the photograph should be excluded as prejudicial because it may influence the sympathies or emotions of the jurors in a way unrelated to the probative value of the evidence. Here we have added, let me be correct for Mr. Shapiro's benefit, I believe it's an adverb, extremely, not an adjective, so he has enhanced the nature of the gruesome by that characterization. And disturbing. Disturbing carries many different connotations. These photographs, I believe, are disturbing in a way that I don't think is intended by Mr. Cochran's suggested admonition. They are disturbing because of what they show happened to Ronald
I know
Gold
why you're
and
nervous,
the other photographs
but
as what they
it'll be
show to
fine.
Ron Simpson.
It'll
They're
be
extremely
perfectly
probative in our
fine.
judgment as to who, in fact, killed these people. That's for the jury to decide.
Think how happy
Obviously,
he'll
as the
feel
court,
for a
if
few
you are
seconds there
given
before.
instruction, you can frame it in terms of how the court first forewarned this jury about we were moving into this phase, we were going to see photographs, if anybody has any problems and so forth, they were to let the court know and so forth, and then read the 1.00
Thank you
instruction, which is
for finding out who that was.
page 2 of the document that Mr. Cochran has given to me. After you give that generalized reflection of the nature of the evidence that the jury was to hear and has been hearing for the last few days, and of course to leave out what is included in the last portion of the proposed admonition or limited instruction, beginning with the words, and when the case is eventually sent to you for deliberations, that you will find the defendant not guilty unless the prosecution has proven his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That is an admonition. I assume this court has read to this jury at some point in either voir dire or before opening statements, the presumption of innocence instruction 2.90. I'm sure this jury understands quite clearly that the burden is on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Dude, shut up. Enough.
Of the charges before they can convict him and before his presumption of innocence is lost. But for the purposes of their reaction to these photographs, 1.00 fully and unambiguously conveys what is the necessary purpose, if there is one, for a limited instruction. That is, this jury must decide the case objectively and not on the basis of emotion or passion or prejudice as to either side. So if the court is inclined to give a limited instruction or admonition, I believe that 1.00 fully and clearly provides that admonition, along with an introductory remark similar in nature to what the court has said on several occasions to this jury with respect to this area of the testimony.
May I respond just briefly, Your Honor?
Yes.
We're not really that far apart, Mr. Kohlberg and I think that basically what we've done is use the court's words. I want to put things in perspective, Your Honor. We're in a different posture now. The court did indicate to the jurors that the photographs, I believe you used the word disturbing or some word similar to that they could raise their hands at any time. And in fact, the juror number 5 did in fact do that yesterday, so I brought it to the court's attention. So we've now had that situation. These photos have had an effect upon the jury. They have been disturbing, they have been gruesome, and they are gruesome. And I won't quarrel over any adverbs, but photographs are gruesome and disturbing. Those are factual statements. We use the court's words. The rest of it is 1.00 pretty much, a jury instruction, which I think the court would want to give in this situation. This is a unique situation. We're still concerned about a fair trial here. The reason why we objected to these photographs, Your Honor, was so that the passion and prejudice that might inure these photographs would then be to the detriment of the defendant and would cause us not to receive a fair trial. And the court wants a fair trial above all else. So I'm just asking the court to put us back on track in that regard. And you've taken safeguards in that regard. Further, who can quarrel with 2.90? I mean, how many times in a trial can you say the defendant has to be proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? And that's all we're talking about, especially in view of the fact that the prosecution was allowed to ask a hypothetical question about somebody 6'2", 200 pounds. Well, I'm sure Dr. If asked that question, we'll say that somebody 5'6", 150 could have done the same damage. And so that, they focus on a particular question, and then it inures to the detriment of our client. We have an obligation to bring that to the court's attention.
Josh
We're
is
asking
such
for
a
fundamental
Scot.
things, as you've done
We learned
yesterday, of course,
today.
and moving the photographs back. That's all we're asking. And so I would ask the court to give this instruction, or an instruction very close to this instruction now, and to consider my other request with regard to June 12th. It's not a holiday for us. We're willing to work. But I just think given the emotions and given everything we know and the fact they have a problem in the morning, it seems to make sense to me, Your Honor. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. All right, counsel, the record does reflect that the court has previously already read to this jury in pre-instructions at the beginning of the case 1.00 and 2.90. However, I think that given the unique situation that we find ourselves in today, I will instruct the jurors when they return to the courtroom as follows. In evaluating the evidence
Poor
presented
Jake.
in this case, you must not be influenced by mere sentiment, conjecture, sympathy, passion, prejudice, public opinion, or public feeling. Both the prosecution and the defendant have a right to expect that you will conscientiously consider and weigh the evidence, apply the law, and reach a just verdict regardless of the consequences. And that is the last two sentences out of 1.00. As to the request to be not dark, but not have the jury in session on the afternoon of Monday, June 12th, I'm going to decline that invitation. We will be here, the court will be here, conducting other activities regarding this case Monday morning, and I would like to complete the doctor's testimony as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you, Judge. Thank you for not talking for 6 hours like each of them did just to say no. No. So that means Monday we're going to be here. Except our Monday is Friday. That's the worst thing I've ever said to somebody. Our Monday is Friday. Oh. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming out today. I really, really, really appreciate it. Mel, if he needs more sedation, please have him listen to the last 10 minutes of this live stream. I'll knock anybody out. Anybody. Except for me. I hope you guys have a great day. I appreciate you watching this with me. Sorry. I'll see you all again soon. Bye, guys.